Okay, in this video I'm going to talk about the user defined data types. Let's see first what is user defined data type. A user defined data type is nothing but a data type which is defined on the other types that is already been defined in the SQL server. Now why do we require a user defined data type in the first place? We require a user defined data type in the first place because of for the simple reason that in case if you are using a variable type again and again which has the same length and the same data type or the same data type, it's better to create a user defined data type and use it everywhere. Why would you like to create it in the first place? The reason is very simple. What happens is that suppose if you have a name, you have defined a name that is varchar 40 in every table. Maybe you have an employee table, maybe a customer table, and many other tables like that. Now you are defining a name that is basically a name of the customer, name of the employee, and you have a varchar 40. Now suppose this being a standard, now suppose if you wanted to change this thing to maybe 45 or maybe 30, whatever it was, lesser in length or more in the length, now you would have to change it in every place, everywhere, in all the tables wherever you have mentioned it, in whatever places you have specified it, even in the stored procedures, wherever you have used it. Now if you had used a user defined data type in that place, you would need to change that data type only in one place, and it will get changed, it will get affected in all the places wherever you are using it. As simple as that. That is the main reason for using a user defined data type. It gives you a ability to create tables and store procedure that are more uniform in the data type and can be easily be modified. Okay, now let's start creating a data type. Okay, it is very simple. Usually you use a create type. DBO is the schema name. You will be using a schema name and the name of the data type what you want to create and from what data type you want to create. Now suppose take for example create type DBO name from varchar 40. What it does is basically it creates a data type named as name from varchar 40, means it would be varchar 40 type. Instead of using every time now for the name, for first name, last name, varchar 40, I could use it that name, that define that variable as name. I'll just come to it and I will show it to you how it is done. Let's first create these data types. Okay, this is first creating a data type with a data type name for varchar 40, and I'm going to execute it, and it has executed. Now again I am creating another data type, creating another type from the data type date time. Here it is again, executing it. This time I have created a DT, which is the type date time. I would be using it wherever I want. I could always use it as DT. Usually you don't use it for the date time for the very simple reason because date time is always going to be fixed. It doesn't actually change any time. Okay, you cannot do any modification for date time, but this is just for making it all thing uniform rather than actually really creating the date. Okay. Now here is one more type I have defined which says the status. Usually use a status like a bit for true and false, whether the employee is actually still working in an organization or not, whether he's not working, whether the product is available or not. Bit, remember, though it is known as a bit, it still takes 1 byte. Execute it. Let's go to the other. Now as you know, all the most of the tables, if you know, that have addresses would always be having a state. So we can have a v state always defined here. In case suppose if I wanted to, I did not want to have the abbreviation of the state, I wanted to have the state full name, I would only have to modify this type here with the char 20, 25, whatever, or whatever I wanted to do, and it will get actually affected in all the tables and procedure wherever I am using it. Here it is. Another one. I can also specify what not null here exactly, or I can specify at the inside the table or in the whenever I am using it in the procedure or wherever the places I am using it. Right now in this case I have used it with the not null right here. Now this gives you a less flexibility. When you say not null here, right here, then you cannot make it null inside the table. Now in this case I can use it like that, or I can still take it as a not null in using while using in the table, because I have not made it not null here. Okay, here is one more. Again created one more data type. I'm just creating a few just to show it to you how actually it's going to work. Usually you would be creating a lot of user defined data types in a very large database. You will have to first work it out what you are going to do after designing the tables. Here is one of the thing. Here is the table that uses the user defined data type. As you can see, I have created a table dbo testing emp int not null. In this case I have used the data type that is actually taken from the SQL server, and the rest I am using a user defined data type. As you can see, f name was name that I already defined up, l name again name, again I am using the same thing. So I have, in case now I can, because I have not defined it as null, I can make one of them null and the other one not null. If I defined it as a not null up there, then the thing is that I cannot actually make it not null or make it null. As you can see, here I have defined as dbo.name for varchar 40. I have not defined it as not null, so I can use it as null or not null depending upon the situation wherever I want to use it. Be clear in what you want to do, and then only you start doing it. Otherwise you may later have to have a lot of problems with the user defined data type. Now here the address, v address, again address 1, v address 1. You see that it's actually making the things easier. And suppose if I wanted to change the address size little bit to a longer size, longer this thing, I have to just change it at one place, and I have to just alter the type, and it would get actually reflected here automatically. I don't have to change it everywhere in the play table. That's the point actually having the user defined data type. Now let's go to the bct state and this thing. Okay, and state. Now let's actually execute and create this table. Now the table has been created. Let's check it out. Let's run a speed help testing. Check it out, the table. There we are. We have this table created, as you can see. Okay, and there is a name and other things here. Let's move it a little bit up, and as you can see, we have a user defined data type actually being used in the table. In the first place, it is there as it is name, and the rest are all user defined data types. Of course, you can check it out the length here also. Okay, now that you have got a little bit hang of what is the user defined data type, we'll go move a little bit further. Now basically, suppose if I want to drop the type, I created many of the types there, I want to drop, it will not allow me to drop this data type that I have created, for the simple reason because the table is using it. As you can see, it has thrown up the error message, okay, and which shows that the data type is being used, okay, is being referenced by an object testing as a table name. If there are other objects, it will be listed here. You cannot drop. If I want to drop that data type, I have to drop all that objects before, or I have to alter that objects before. Most probably I would be always altering that objects before dropping the data type. I cannot drop all the objects, it doesn't make sense. Now let's create one more data type, okay, to show you what exactly how it works. Now I am creating a type id num, okay, and I am going to execute it. Okay, there we go, it has created the type, and again I am going to create one more table, and I am going to use that id num to create an id in the table, creating a user after creating. Okay, now the table has been created using a user defined data type. Now I am going to insert a few rows into the table. Let's say I inserted 3 rows. Now I do have 3 rows into the table. Now suppose if I wanted to drop the data type, I will have to first alter that table test2 where I have inserted 3 rows and alter the column id with a varchar 12 not null, exactly the same length as of the data type, or you can change a different length, but usually as it was defined as varchar 12 here, I can change it to the varchar 12 and then drop the data type that I have created here. Now let's run it. I am going to alter the table and later I am going to drop that type that I have already created to show you that how it works. Now before actually going through, let's run it once, this thing once again, to be confirming that this cannot be dropped. As you can see, it cannot be dropped, it is being referenced by the table 2. Now I am going to alter that table 2 and I am going to execute it, and once the table has been altered, then I can drop the type, because now it is no more being referenced by that table. Of course, if it is referenced by some other objects, then still you have to actually alter those objects also, maybe stored procedure, maybe other tables wherever it is being referenced. In this case, this is the only table it is being referenced to, and I have altered that table, and I am going to now execute this thing, and you will see that the type has been dropped. Now let's create one more type. Again, let's create another type, user defined data type, this is known as my state. This time I am going to use it in the stored procedure rather than the table. Here it goes. Okay, I will just check it out whether the procedure exists. If it exists, I want to drop it. Okay, because it doesn't exist, well and good. Now I am going to create a stored procedure which says create procedure DBO, that is schema name by default, my procedure, state my, this is the where I am using a user defined data type again here, as you can see, and I am going to select it as this thing. The variable that is being passed actually is the input variable is user defined data type. State has been defined as my state, which was created before that user defined data type, and I am going to actually create this procedure by executing it. And it has created the procedure. Now let's actually execute this procedure and let's see it. It should work, and then we'll try to drop that user defined data type, my state, and see what exactly it comes to. As you can see, all the rows for the state CA has been listed. Now let's drop the user defined data type and let's see what happens. It should throw up the error message that is being referenced by the object, my procedure. As you can see, it has already given it that is being referenced by the object, my procedure. You cannot drop that data type. Now let's go and alter the stored procedure that is actually created and remove that reference to that user defined data type. Here it is, I have altered it. As you can see, character 2, it has been defined and it has been altered. Now drop type again. Let's execute it. There we go. It has got completed. Create type. Now this time I am going to show you how to create a type, user defined data type of a table rather than just a single type. Here is it. I am going to create type computers TTT as a table. I am going to actually use a skill this thing, and I am going to create a table. Now we are going to use a table for a little bit other technical functions. Let's execute it. Now I'll show you why we actually, okay, it already exists, no problem. Okay, since the create type already exists, I don't want to actually recreate it. Okay, now let's actually drop this table. If it exists, if it doesn't exist, well and good. Now we are going to create the table. Create table, computer skills. Okay, now we have created a table with the computer skills, and we are going to insert some few rows into this table, and then we are going to use the user defined table. Okay, now here it is. We are going to create a procedure first, which is going to, it says create procedure DBO user insert computer skills in the skill table as computer TT read only. This is actually the data type we have defined up, computer TT type as a table. These are the two fields of this type of a table, and this is where it would be actually be creating the data type as of the skill table, which will be of the computer TT type read only, as insert computer skills, skill type, skill group, select skill from skill table, go. Now that table will be passed on from to the create procedure, and that would be inserted into computer skills. Now hold on for a minute, I'll just show it to you. This is a table that is known as a create computer skills, where we are going to insert the rows. Okay, now firstly it says insert computer skills skill type. This is the field name. Select this thing, and this would be coming from the stored procedure up as a parameter would be passed. Now we are going to insert hold that table. We are going to create a table that is a computer TT type to hold the data. This data may be coming from some other place. Okay, but before you understand this thing, then we insert this thing into the hold skill table data type that has been created as this thing as computer TT type. Okay, and I can insert rows, and then I can execute this DBO insert computer skills procedure, and I can pass the hold skill table right there. But remember that thing, you cannot actually separate them. If you separate them, it will not work. You have to execute all these three together. Declare it and insert it and execute it. Otherwise, it doesn't create the inserts and it will give you an error. Now let's execute it. Now you can see it has inserted many of the rows in a single this thing, and one row, and there is a 7 row. The 7th row has been inserted with the lost execute statement. These 6 are from this thing, 7 are from here. First 7 1 rows, and that was the 7 rows that have been actually showing affected was executed from the insert the computer skills. This is the stored procedure, and I will just show it to you where it is gone into. It is gone into the computer skills table. Okay, now I am going to show you the contents of the computer skill table, and this will, once you have seen, we will end the session here. This is select, execute, and as you can see, all the 7 rows have been actually jumped up into this table. This was how actually you can use a user defined data type. You can create a table of the type. You can use a user defined data. It has many positive things you can do with it. It is also being used in the data modeling tools like R.N.A, Power Designer, ER Studios, and many others. Basically, they are known as data dictionary there. Okay, I've just ended here for the user defined data type.